have a question. What is your favorite song and how do you connect with it? Is it when you fell in love or through something really difficult? I'm your host, Tiffany Mason. Now join me as I interview others and we take a walk down memory lane with them. Let's get lost in why that music matters to them. Turn up your radio and let's explore Memories with a Beat. Hello, Podcast Land. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Memories with a Beat. Today, I have with me Wes Hunter. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And I learned that Wes actually used to be in Florida with me, but now he's moved a little further north. Sucker, because it's winter.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Wes, if you wouldn't mind, would you tell my audience just a little bit about yourself, what you do, fun things that you enjoy, hobbies, whatever, just something so we can get to know you.
Sure. So I grew up in Florida, like you said. My family they're country folk. So they have, cows and pigs and a donkey on the farm down in Florida. But I live just outside of Boston in Watertown, Massachusetts. So I live here with my husband of just under a year. We're about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary.
Okay.
And I'm originally, for a while I was a musician and an opera singer, and I still do that while also now working in finance too. And things that we like to do, we really like to watch a lot of TV and different TV shows.
Yes.
Everything from funny to sappy. I also happen to play on a queer softball league.
Okay.
So in the spring and in the fall, you can see me out on the field trying to hit the ball.
Well, what I love about that is you saying that you guys are just breaching, that 1-year mark. I was just editing a podcast, and she has actually been married for 3 years, but they're both in the Navy. So he got deported, or not deported. He got deployed, and then she got deployed, and then he got deployed, and so this is their first year living together. And so she was like, you learn a lot about the other person when you live with them. So I'm sure you have gone through a lot of those same transitions, just trying to figure the other person out and effectively communicate was another thing. She was mentioning the things that she was grateful for, and she was grateful for learning to effectively communicate. So that comes with the territory, right?
Sure. And actually, if I can say, when he and I first moved in together before we were married, I was off traveling a lot as a singer.
Okay.
And so we similarly had, I think the first year we spent maybe a total of 3 months like staying in the same place together. And so it took several years until we finally had lived a full year together. In fact, it may have even been, even in the pandemic, may have been the first time we were together, just the two of us, for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna joke it was the pandemic, right? But maybe it actually was. Need to put that joke aside. Well, I knew that you would be a perfect person to have on the podcast. I love when somebody already has a passion for music. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about your singing career? I didn't realize it was opera. My husband one time surprised me and we went to go see the Three Tenors. That was absolutely amazing. And I never will forget just my first introduction to the opera in general. And this is so, I'm from Iowa, so I can appreciate the pigs and the farm and all that good stuff. So it was actually Pretty Woman. Okay. And he takes her to the opera, and at the end, she cries because it's just so beautiful. And I just always remember being like, I want to go to the opera one day. I want to have that experience. And especially just if you know me, music really moves me. And so I think that that's obviously another draw to it. But I would love to learn what you did, where you were traveling. Let us know how big of a rock star you really are, or opera star, I should say.
I wouldn't say an opera star. What's funny about Pretty Woman is, I believe the show that they see is La Traviata,
Okay.
which is about Violetta, who is a woman who can be hired for her company.
Yes, much
right?
like Julia.
Much like Julia Roberts' character in the movie, and it's a really, really phenomenal show. In fact, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because it is it's everything a spectacle. It's there's a party scene. There's a very, very, very long death scene
Oh.
at the end. In fact, to the point where you just think, okay, just die already, right? Like we've been sick this whole show again. So that's sort of an opera singer humor. So for anybody out there, we don't actually want anybody to die. We just like
Yes.
sometimes it can take so long in an aria when someone's, you're just like, okay, we're just ready to close the curtains. We get it.
Yeah.
So I've been classically trained. I attended school in Maryland and then here in Boston, learning to sing operatically.
Mm.
Have done some opera, everything from being a lead in a small local show to working in the chorus for some B level, like a B level house, which is sort of, we tier by houses like A, B, like the Met would be an A. Other companies sort of below that would be B, C, and so on.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have a huge career. I did quite a lot, especially around the Boston area. I did quite a few shows, do a lot of church services, weddings, funerals, that sort of thing. Have
Mm.
have sung, like I'm currently an artist in residence for the Metropolitan Corral. Shout out to my Metropolitan Corral folks.
Okay, I have to pause you right there because if I don't know what it is, plenty of my listeners don't either. So explain to me, how cool is this?
So it's fine. It's a gig, right? It's work. The chorale
Yeah.
is, I'd say, somewhere around 100 members strong. Adjusting now
Okay.
post COVID. And basically, what I do is I am the tenor who's there to help lead the tenors and do solo work as we do it. What is cool about this gig is that we are the touring choir with the Boston Pops for their holiday tour. And so every year,
Oh.
right? So every year I get to sing a bunch of Christmas songs and sing with Keith Lockhart, who's the conductor of the Boston Pops, and it's just a really great time. Everybody's in great holiday spirits. You're bringing the holidays to folks, especially when it's been a rough year, like not just in the pandemic, but there have been rough years before the pandemic, and you can really feel an audience just sort of let go and appreciate all of the good things about the holidays, right? As we might be sort of moving on from whatever happened, in the year prior. So it's a lot of fun, and the people are great.
That's so cool. I think you're right in saying that not only 2020 was a hard year, but I think that there's also those people that, a previous episode, a gentleman said music is medicine for modern day living. And so you never know how hard of a holiday, maybe every Christmas is a hard holiday, right? And so they get to come to this venue and have this great experience
Mm,
and listen to your beautiful voices and just kind of like you said let loose for a little bit and shed the sadness for a bit and just indulge in the holiday spirit. So I think that's awesome. I love when a guest uses a word I've never heard before. So I'm going to add this to my vocabulary repertoire, but it is operatically. I never heard that before. So yes, people, you can be trained operatically. And so now I can use that when I'm talking about this episode. I'm going to say, like, yes, he's even operatically trained. Like,
would you like to hear a bit of a sort of difference of what that means?
okay, sure.
Work. So what's a song that's we think is royalty free? Like Mary Had a Little Lamb probably is fine,
Okay.
right? So normally, like, if you were singing, you'd be like, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb. But in opera, it's all about just opening your throat and allowing your voice to just sort of be its most pure self, which some may find more annoying than others, but some of us find it beautiful. So you would sing, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. And it's just like, I think it's just fun, right? That's why I appreciated being trained operatically, is that I get to make all these different colors with my voice.
Mm.
So I don't just sing opera, but because I've allowed myself to learn how to open up in that way, I just have like this plethora of colors when I do perform that I can just pick. So it sort of lets me sort of match the tone of the piece
Mm.
with a sound that's gonna make it be the, because you may not always want to sound like that,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
might want to sound more subdued or something. So it's just fun.
Yeah. I think that's great that you have the ability to play with it, that you've been given the talent that you can choose. Some people get to choose their range. you can choose your range, but you also get to almost like dictate the feeling based on the tone that you
Exactly.
choose. So I think that's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, and then softball, you mentioning that you played in the league. I loved softball as a kid. I always played softball,
Yeah.
and I think that that's great as we get older. We should always find a way to still, I don't want to necessarily say be a little kid anymore, but just those simple indulgences, I guess, as simple as playing a softball game, And I think it's even
Yeah.
more cool that it's a queer league because then it's just like-minded people and you can be yourself and you don't have to worry about, hiding this or that piece of yourself. You can just be and have fun and raw fun at that. So I think that that's amazing and awesome. And I do love that you're part of that choir too, because I interviewed another gentleman and he's very successful in his business. But he said, "Yeah, I'm actually part of like a choir house, not like what you're saying, but like something different. Anyways, like a choir club. But he more like helps to instruct them, and then he's on their board, so he helps with like finances and all that kind of stuff. But I think that that's
Mm,
great that we don't lose sight of those things that we love so much and still be a part of them. So
for sure.
good on ya."
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the song that you picked. And I love that we're probably almost the same age. I think you might be a little bit younger than me, but I love that you know this song from the Chicks and I know this song from Fleetwood Mac. So
Mm.
by now people may already know the song, but would you like to introduce the song that you've selected, Wes?
Sure. So I decided for that we would discuss today "Landslide" by Fleetwood Mac,
Mhm.
having been covered by the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those songs that I every now and then you hear something that just touches the right place of your heart, and when you get to hear it again, it can take you back. It's one of the powerful things about music, right? And why I chose it as a profession is that it
Mhm.
can really send you back to a specific memory where you can feel or smell or taste what was going on in your world when you were introduced to this song or when it became important to you for whatever reason.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a terrific song, and I love that it's very simple.
Yeah, I hear this song and I instantly feel my emotions are fighting with each other and I feel kind of melancholy about it.
Mm.
But how does it make you feel, Wes, when you turn this on? Is this a song that you heard, touched your heart, and then when you needed it, it made an impact on you? Or is this a song that has always kind of made an impact on you? Does it bring up memories or is it more of a feeling for you?
It brings up that's a great question. It brings up a little bit of both for me. So
Okay.
it takes me back to I would say I was probably anywhere between 9 and 11 when I first heard the song and it absorbed it in that way. So it takes me
Mm-hmm.
back to that time, and I was a very you use the word melancholy. I was very melancholy as a child. I
Okay.
have these moments of I'm generally a happy person, but I can also have these moments of really deep, intense feeling, and sometimes like depression, right? Like these, especially like season changes right now,
Yes.
right? So I think about it. Kind of takes me back to the fall, I think, because that's a time as a child where my body would be changing with the season, and so I would often, I think, latch onto a song that helped me feel like I was an expression of what was going on the inside, right? But it also does take me back to my
Mm-hmm.
childhood when I was just like obsessed with music as it came into my world, and I didn't have this professional trained ear always picking apart things and trying to understand, maybe why
Mm.
musically it is effective or why it ties into the emotion so well. It was a much more simpler time for me to just listen to music and enjoy it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that
Yeah.
because as you get older and especially with what you've done with your life, I'm sure you're very critical. Of course, that makes total sense. It's the same thing when I listen to podcasts, right?
Mhm.
I can't just listen to podcasts. I'm picking them apart as I'm trying to gain the information that they're sharing, but I'm just like, ooh, I would have leveled out that voice or I would have taken that little click sound out or, same thing. I think it's interesting that you said that when you were 9 or 11, this song helped you just to kind of feel what you were feeling. I had another guest that commented that music does not give us emotions. it helps us to get those emotions out or helps us to identify or feel those emotions.
Yeah,
And so I think that that's exactly what you're saying, that you had like that transitional time, which can be kind of melancholy. And so this song just kind of helps you to feel the feelings. Sometimes you just need to have a good cry, or sometimes you need to just watch a sappy rom-com, and get it out of your system. So I
exactly.
think that that's the purpose that that served for you. That's interesting. So as you grew, do you feel like you're still going back to being 9 or 11? Are there other events that this song has impacted?
I don't know there's anything specific that it's impacted. I think it's just one of those songs that I revisit a lot. And I
Mhm.
think I even performed it once. I have a little toy ukulele at one point, and so it's one of the first things I picked up on my ukulele when I started. That was the beginning of pandemic. I
So
was like, I'm going to
cool.
learn to play ukulele because I had nothing else to do. Right, beginning of the pandemic, and this was one of the first songs. Yeah, so I don't know that there's anything specific that it takes me back to in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Just one of those songs that like when you need it, it's there and you pull it out of your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting, or I'm sad that you got to learn a new instrument during the pandemic. I thought it was a great time to start a new business. So everybody else had like all this time, right? Well, I think there's two sides of the coin. There's a group of people that were busy, and there's a group of people that, either got to really connect with their family or got to learn a new skill. Me, on the other hand, I was drinking from a fire hose, trying to learn as much as I possibly could about podcasting and editing and getting clients and building a business and so much. But if I could have learned something, I would have learned the piano.
Mm, there's always time to learn.
I think that that's one of the things I would really like to do next year, set as a goal, get an instructor, and really learn how to play the piano because I could really see myself being able to get frustration out that way. Do you find that when you sing, you have the same ability? You're able to kind of get that frustration out?
Oh, for sure. So my little bit of my background, I grew up singing in church. My family was very religious. My dad's a preacher.
Okay.
Fill in the rest of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So I grew up singing in church, and then when I was, I think, really sixth grade or so, my family got me into piano lessons because I was really interested in music. I was just always singing along to things. And I remember one family vacation, someone from our church had let me borrow her Sound of Music CD, and I listened to that on repeat the entire vacation in the back of the van, singing along, annoying everybody because I was just singing along. I mean, I was just like I was part of me was just like the gayest kid in that way,
Yeah.
right? Being on musicals. But what I found is that because I was sort of that moody, I was a bit of a moody child in that I had a lot of feelings. I didn't always feel like I could express them verbally in that way. And so, yeah, for sure, I,
Hmm.
I would sit and play and sing songs and it was practicing. I'm doing air quotes. It was practicing, but it was also allowing me to process through emotions that I just didn't feel comfortable going to someone like a family member or a friend and saying I'm feeling this way. Like I felt very alone in that respect, and so music was like a partner for me in being able to express parts of myself that just needed to get out,
Hmm.
right? So they didn't stay pent up inside of me. I think it's one of the great things about music is like when you're really happy you start dancing to some music, right? when
Yes.
you're when you're really sad you can put on some music and just let it be part of you, and when you're feeling like anywhere in between, right?
Yeah.
Angry, like you want something funny, like there's something out there that you can connect with really in any way.
Yeah, I think that's true that everybody can find some kind of music to connect with, and I think that that's, one of the beauties or one of the powers of music in general. So, yeah, I completely agree with that.
I'm just gonna say, you don't need to be an expert or a highly trained
Mm,
musician to be able to use it in that way,
yep.
which is what's great. It really is. It's a language for everyone.
Yeah. And I think even the music that we don't know the words to because it's another language, I think can still
Mm,
affect us, right? There's a couple of like Latino Cuban songs that I just love. I have no clue what they're
Yeah.
saying, but I just, the tempo, the beat, the music, the intonation, like, yes, I'm totally in.
For
So
sure.
I appreciate that. Speaking with a friend of mine that does some therapy and some breath work. And she was talking about, like when you start a yoga class or whatever, they always ask you to do those deep cleansing breaths, right? You take in the big breath and then you sigh it out. And then she shared the little tidbit with me that, like when we're very, very frustrated and we're like, ah, that is actually like all this pent up energy that you just need to get out. And I think that's what music does sometimes too, right? Like if you've got all this negative pent up energy, you just want to sing at the top of your lungs, which I would think opera would be so good for. I wish I was operatically trained. But but same thing with, happy music. You're shouting the words, singing so loud, and it's just a good release, I think, of that energy when you're all pent up and need to just let it out.
For sure, because especially if you're singing, I mean, it's if we're talking about breath, then we're talking about instruments that use breath.
Mm,
Although pretty much every instrument, actually, every musician really uses breath. Even if they don't play with their breath, they're still breathing together, or they're breathing as part of. I mean, it's just it. There's that part of it, which is music actually gets your breath.
So let me interrupt you really fast.
Yeah.
For people that are listening, Wes is motioning like a violin, right? So like you're actually playing the physical instrument, and then he was speaking about like playing with the breath, so the actual air in your lungs. So I just wanted to clarify, just because they can't see us. So
Yeah. Sorry about that. The point is that gets your breath moving sometimes, just to be involved in music,
yeah,
which so to her point, you're sort of getting that breath moving. And yeah, when it comes to singing, like literally singing is sort of a version of shouting, and it's just a controlled pressure on your vocal cords, and so
sure.
in a little bit more controlled and sustained, and so it's exactly that.
Well, and she was also mentioning that when you breathe, like we're speaking with singing, you actually are massaging your vagus nerve. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of the vagus nerve. I haven't heard that it's massaging it, so that's interesting. I'll have to do some research on.
Hmm. Lots and lots of benefits. So that's probably one reason why I feel like most musicians are fairly happy people, but maybe not. But or maybe they're really messed up people, and the music just makes them happy.
Probably more of that, but sure, yeah.
Listen, in just a minute, you're going to want to text the word details to the number I give you. So quick, go grab a pen. I'll wait. Okay, write down 904-560-5597 and the word details. Now, here's why you're going to want to text it. If you're an entrepreneur like me, I know that you have a lot of hats that you have to wear. But guess what? I have really good news. I've just found a system. I call it the No More system. Why do I call it that? Well, no more wondering if someone looked at your proposal, no more worrying about checking messages on multiple platforms, no longer having to check back with a prospect and see if they need to reschedule, no more worrying about the prospects that ghosted you. There's an automation for that. There are tags and segmentations that will update a contact's record when they say open an email or whatever. It's amazing. No more worrying about updating your pipeline. No more, I've got to make sure to send this person information. No more to a lot of things. So I call it the No More system, even though the actual name is Follow-Up Speed. Follow-Up Speed is a CRM, an automated follow-up team. You can run a promotion, a course, a membership. It can even be your website, all rolled into one quote-unquote hub, if you will. It's seemingly endless, all of the different pipelines clients can go through with Follow-Up Speed. Best part, it's at their speed. I just want to share one more thing, which is my favorite current automation. If a client or listener texts one of my keywords, sure, I can have an automation in place, or I can reply as myself. And that's who they've invested in, correct? Us, the business owner. I hope you can see your day-to-day being simplified and your business growing as a result. Check out Follow-Up Speed now by texting details to 904-560-5597. And of course, it'll be in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
Maybe I think too. I don't know if there's any, science or studies out there. Listeners, if you know, please go ahead and let me know. But I wonder if there's a study with people who are highly emotional, and those are the people that connect with music more. Because I would say I'm a highly emotional person. You said you are. And I think about a lot of my past guests, and some of the best interviews were with people that I would say are highly emotional, not as a bad thing, just you're aware that you feel the feelings. So I wonder if there's a
Mhm.
correlation there. I'm sure there is, just because it's so soothing or resolving, or helps you kind of express yourself.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there weren't some type of study that showed that people who have lots of feelings tend to be more engaged with music in their lives. I don't know of anything specific, but I would say you're probably right about that, just from my own experience and knowing other musicians, right? That sometimes we can also be you can witness that with people that you're working with, that sometimes people have very heightened reactions to various stimuli. So I would say that there seems to be a correlation between those two things.
I also wonder, or I'm curious, if we are more imaginative people, right? Because like when I hear a song, I already have a music video, right? That's playing, and I'm
Right?
putting the whole thing together, right? And so I feel like I'm this highly emotional, imaginative person. So,
That's interesting because I strongly believe that we really are all creatives,
mm,
and that there are just some of us that maybe are more intense creative thinkers from a very young age
mm,
to now, because I'm the same as you. If I've got a song that I'm in love with, that there's a whole scene in my head that I'm playing, and that's part of it, right? And it's partly why I decided to go into performance, was because it's about putting on this imaginary character, whether it's close to you or not in personality, and putting that out there for folks. And I also find it in my like finance work, that I have all this creative energy, and I just have to figure out how to fuel it. And because I've been such a creative person my whole life and a
hmm
musician, I think it's very easy for me to recognize creative energy. But I find that lots of folks think that they're not creative because they're not an art. They don't paint, they don't draw, they don't do music. They like talk radio. But like listening to talk radio, and you're listening to NPR, and they're talking about, you know, what's going on in Belarus right now. And if you start then thinking like, well, what if this was a solution to that problem? Or,
Sure.
you're thinking about, it's just been announced that we had like a record number of overdoses in the United States. And so those
Mm,
people who are solving those problems, we wouldn't necessarily think of them or trying to solve those problems. Rather, we don't necessarily think of them as creatives because they're not in the arts.
yeah.
But anytime you're putting your brain to try and solve a problem, which we all are constantly all the time, you're using, I think, that creative side of your brain. And what we just have to do is start allowing ourselves to be creative and not inhibit it, right? There's some of us that are less
Yeah.
inhibitive because we've learned the joy of allowing that creative side to be flourishing. And then there are others
hmm
who, somewhere along the way you just sort of stop fueling that side, but really it never goes away. I think we're all creative in that way.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make, that everyone has that creativity in them. It's just a matter if they've nurtured that side or not.
Yeah. And whether it shows up in the arts or not. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be an
Yeah.
art to be creative.
Yeah. Going back to talking about when you have a favorite song and you're listening to it, and
Mhm.
you immediately have this trailer going in your mind. I was thinking of, have you ever read a book and then went to go see the movie, and the movie's not nearly as good? I think it's because if
Yeah.
you have a really active imagination, you have made this, if the author's done their job, they've painted the scene right for you, you've already got it. And then you go see the movie and you're like, no, 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 that's not how it went down. And I think it's because of that movie that we've put together, or the music video that we've
Right.
put together for the
Right.
songs and such. Is there anything else that you want to add to this song? We kind of got off track there a little bit, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know. So one of the things that I tell you I love about music is that it's also poetry,
Mm.
right? So it's not just the music side of it. It's the poetry, it's the words, it's the fact that someone was able to put a feeling that you've had, or a sensation or a thought that you've had, into words that strikes you, and then often they make them rhyme, and when it's good, it's really really powerful. And so I would say that that's one of the things about this particular song that I've always been drawn to, is that it asks all these questions, right? Like, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child, well, here's one for us, right? Can the child in my heart rise above, right? And I love that it's asking these questions in this way. And then the music also reflects that, right? Because the music has that little bit of a question, that unsettling. It's not your typical major key song, right? It paints that picture for us in that way.
Well, I think that you're expressing that it's kind of melancholy in and of itself. And so then when you were having those moments of questioning and trying to figure things out, it makes sense that this is a song that you would go to because it has that emotion to it. So I would agree with that, that there's a lot of questions in there, absolutely. And I think when you are wrestling with yourself, like Misery Loves Company kind of idea. And so you put this song on and it's kind of wrestling with itself, and it's not beep de beep de beep de beep. It's not like,
Right, right,
right, like happy merrily we go along, right? Like it's
right.
it's got its own character to it. So, and unpredictable a little bit, I think too.
Yeah. I will say I do love this one line, like, but time makes you bolder, even children get older. Like, it's sort of a lot of what we were just talking about on that creative side. I guess and maybe this is why I was thinking of that, because of listening to the song in preparation. There's just this sense that I feel like we all have this sense at some point or another that we're racing against some clock. Right? And
Mm.
there are things out there that we wanna have, or that we wanna do, experiences that we want to experience, problems that we wanna resolve. And it seems when you're a child, like, you've got so much time, and part of why part of why you're so carefree is not just because you don't have any responsibilities, it's because you got all this time to learn and grow, and then you hit a corner, and for a lot of us, it's around that sort of 30 bend, right? Where
Yeah.
suddenly you're in the face of your own mortality. And how do we deal with that while we have grown up? How do we then maybe go back and try to experience some of the purity that we had in our childhood, when we weren't as afraid of what could happen tomorrow, or if we even have a tomorrow? Like, there's something really great about that. So I realize that it's a little bit of a downer of a song in some
I don't
ways,
think it ever
but I
is though.
think,
I like it.
yeah, it's good to ask these questions, and it's good to think about just where our place is in the world, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I think to your point, bringing up that comment about the softball and singing and keeping those things that really gave you a lot of pleasure when you were younger in our adult lives, and also her saying we get bolder, even children get older. I think that also goes, this is what I thought you were going to say, is that the more you are in it, so like let's say that you're, okay, I'm a podcaster, right? So the more I do it, the more bold I become because I'm developing the skill set for podcasting, right? And so I think it's the same thing. So I thought that's what you were going to say is with singing that, you got more and more confident in it. So you were able to be a little bit more bold about it, but I love the tie-in about even children get older. So how do we keep those things that we enjoyed and, keep bringing them into our everyday life, or keep that same curiosity as children have?
Yeah. Time makes you bolder. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way. So that's a really interesting point. I was thinking of it as you take on more risks. Like, you know what I mean? You get
Mm.
bolder as you get older. But you're right. We also, and I think that's also what you're saying, is that you get better, you get stronger, you really become into your own. It's so funny to me how I said to my husband the other day, we were so something was going on. Oh, he had something going on at his work with some students, and I just was like, "Ugh, kids these days," and it was both ironic and unironic at the same time, right? Because we both knew what I was saying, and there is something about as you get older, you start to realize how much you have grown,
Yeah.
right? And how, like, you really couldn't have gotten you had to go through certain things to get to where you are now, and so, hopefully, we're not too hard on ourselves for whatever happened in our pasts, but it's great getting older. You have so much more confidence. I was going through something recently, and I was like, "Why am I not as stressed about this? Why am I not stressed?" And I thought to myself, like, "'Cause I've already navigated this ship through this water. I've done this 2 or 3 times already.
Yeah.
And now at 32, I'm doing it, and I'm like, it's not any less of a problem. It's just that I've now had the experience to go, I know how to do this. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna get through this, right? And so, yeah, you'd absolutely get bolder. Time makes you bolder. There you go.
Yeah, well, so as soon as you started embracing what I said, now I got a new one for you.
Okay.
Uh, I think also, so I'm 41, I'll be 42 soon. And I think as you get older, you get bolder, but you also just like, you just kind of stop caring what people think. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I feel like every year you kind of let a little bit more go and a little bit more go. And I feel like I'm in my own now where I'm like, I don't know. This is me. I'm probably not changing a whole lot more. Take it or leave it. You want to be my friend? Cool. You don't? That's cool. Not going to hold it against you, but this is me. Take it or leave it. Like it, love it, hate it, whatever. I just don't care anymore.
Was there something that you feel like triggered that for you, or do you truly just feel like it's every year you're sort of more sure of who you are and that you're a good person, that you're trying to do good things? Or was there an event that you think was oh, you know what, I'm just gonna have to be myself here, and that sort of was a catalyst?
I would say it's both. I would say for the most part, I would give the majority to life experience. And like when you're in high school, you realize, oh, okay, it doesn't their opinions, maybe a specific group, it doesn't matter what they think, right? And then you become an adult, and you're like, okay, people with kids, okay, I'm not going to worry about what their opinion is, right? And
Mhm.
then you get a little bit older, and you're like, okay, women that are younger than me, I'm not going to let their opinion bother me, right? And you keep getting older, and you keep slowly dismissing, I guess, some people. Not that you don't value them. I mean, they're just as valuable as you, but you just don't feel like you have to justify yourself to them anymore. And then I think I've done a lot of soul searching and self talk. And so I think at some point, a lot of my bad self talk has gone away.
Mm.
And I just I know I'm a good person. I know I'm not hurting people. The things that I care about in other people, I possess those qualities. I love somebody says, if you spot it, you got it. Just like you were saying, you can, sometimes pick up on that creative energy because you have the creative energy.
Sure. To your point about, different groups and real sort of letting go of their opinions, RuPaul fame. I won't say all what she says because I don't know how rated this can be, but the general gist of the quote is, "If they ain't paying your bills, pay them no mind."
Hmm.
And that was a hard lesson for me to
Well,
learn.
I'm sure because you had a really big battle and it's been very public. Not yours specifically, but just the gay topic in general has
Mm.
been very, there's been a lot of controversy. So you definitely had a big mountain to climb on that one.
Well, and in my own life, my family being not as accepting, right? That
Mm,
there, for me, it came there were moments where I've had to just come to a decision of who am I going to choose? Am I going to choose myself, or am I going to choose somebody else? And I think for queer folks, we sometimes are brought to that, and it becomes a real clear delineation between you and somebody else's wishes for your life. And for folks who don't necessarily experience that in the same way, right? Cisgender heterosexual folks, they may, but if they don't, then it can be more of a journey, right?
yeah,
But everybody's got those moments where they have to, I think you have to look at someone and say, I have to choose me right now.
yep.
And that's, hopefully you don't see it as selfish, but you see it as empowering. Listeners, it's empowering sometimes
Yes.
to choose yourself.
Yep. I would agree with through other conversations that I've had from people that give advice to other people. Same thing. Let it be empowering when you
Yeah.
choose you.
Yeah. And like you said, as long as you're sure that you're trying your best to be a good person every
Right.
single day, like that's what I get up and I'm trying to do. And when I get pulled into drama or I get pulled into different things, I have to take the responsibility and say, I can't let my energy go there. I've got to
Right.
stick with just what I know, which is I want to be a good person who is strong in my beliefs and will, stand up for myself.
Yeah. Well, Wes, is there anything more you want to add about this awesome and amazing song that you chose? Because this is one of my favorite songs.
Just that I think everybody should take a chance and go listen to it and
Yeah.
maybe have the lyrics in front of you if you can, and get into a place, maybe turn the lights off, close your eyes, and just listen to how powerful a really simple song like this can be.
Yeah, I agree. And for listeners, if you guys don't remember or if you haven't heard before, there is a Spotify playlist, an Apple Music playlist, and a YouTube video playlist. So, and if you listen on Apple Music, I don't know if you can in Spotify, but if you listen in Apple Music, you can actually click on the little quotes at the bottom left, and it will give you the lyrics. So as the song is playing, you can tune into those lyrics and really, get a love, a passion for this song that Wes and I have. Thank you for your time today, Wes.
Thank you so much. This is great.
And my audience, I hope that this episode was music to your ears.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? You never know what rabbit holes we'll get to go down and explore. Were you reminded of anything? Or anyone? Share what it was with me in a review. Honestly, the reviews don't do me any favors other than knowing people like you are listening to this podcast. Insert cheesy wink. However, the ratings do help, so leave me 5 stars. You know you wanna. This podcast was produced by Virtual You, supporting you in all things podcasting. To connect or check me out on social media, I know you're just gonna stalk me. But see the show notes, as always, for details. Can't wait to dive into my next guest's memories with a beat. Hit subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next episode.